here today to do a little update, short review of the two books that we read in February for the Run Right Reads Book Club. If you're new to my channel, if you're new to hearing about this, the Run Right Reads Book Club in 2021, we are reading the Caribbean. Each month we choose a different Caribbean country or territory, and we try to read two novels by two different authors that are set in that country, and we're using that as a way to explore that part of the Caribbean. So in February we were reading Jamaica, and so we chose as our points of reference Here Comes the Sun by Nicole Dennis Ben and These Ghosts Are Family by Maisie Card. And ignore the Phoenix Suns t-shirt. My husband is a huge Phoenix Suns fan, and so I have a shirt even though I'm not a fan myself, but I thought it was appropriate because we're reading about sunny Jamaica, and sun is in the title of this book. So it took a little while for me to make this video, but I wanted to come on here and do a short review of these two books. If you would like to join the book club, it's still open. You can always read the books, you can always join the book club. Let me just say, I previously read both of these books and I wanted to experience them with the group, so I chose These Ghosts Are Family by Maisie Card. I listened to the audio version of this one last year, and I was really excited to get a print copy from the author. This was a gift from the author, and to reread this in print and share my experience with other people. So These Ghosts Are Family. This story, it's a story of a family. It's a fictional memoir of a family as seen through the eyes of many different kin. So we're reading about this man who is Jamaican, and he left Jamaica, lived in England for a while, and then he moved to the United States. And we're meeting him in the beginning of the book. We're meeting him in his later life, and he's telling us his story. He's confessing almost on his deathbed. He's sick now, and he's ready to kind of acknowledge some of the things that he did. So as a young man who was living in Jamaica, he was a police officer, he had a wife, he had children, and life was just not great for him. And so he decided to leave and go on a cruise ship, go work, and he left with a friend who, they looked very similar, and the friend was killed, and he assumed the friend's identity. So he pretended to be the friend, he pretended to be the person who had died, stepped into that guy's life / death, and took a new identity. So he was able to start a different life, married again, had more children, and just pretended that his family in Jamaica didn't exist. But now that he's come to the end of his life, he wants to make amends. So he's sought out his daughter from Jamaica. She is now also living in the United States. She's a health worker, and because he is sick, it's not strange that he would invite this home health aide to come to his home, and he's about to confess to her, as well as to the daughter, with the wife and life that he has now. And he's, about to confess to everyone who he is or who he isn't. So we start with that story, but then we go back to revisit his life in Jamaica and see some of the things that were happening, the politics in Jamaica at that time when he was living there. And we also inhabit the life and the space of his ancestors, people who came before him, but also the life that his children have been living because of the choices that he made, because of some of the decisions that he made in his life to abandon them, or for the child in the United States, how much of her life, how much of the choices that he made for her would have been different if he hadn't previously abandoned a family. So, we see maybe a little bit of the indulgence and what that kind of nets. So, yeah. This book explores a lot about families, about generations, about generational curses, about the choices that people make and how it ripples through families, but also about acknowledging and reckoning mistakes that were made in the past and how it's rippling through your life now, how it's affecting you and all the people around you. So I love that, we're exploring this kind of otherworldly. There is a kind of spectral, eerie note to this book. There's actual talk about ghosts and incantations, but we're also thinking about the ghosts of a life. How much of the things that you wish, the skeletons that you have in your closet, how many of the things that you wish were dead and buried, how do they come back to haunt you, essentially? So I love this book. I thought that this was fantastic. Some of the criticisms surrounding this book is that we meet a lot of characters, and as we follow them, we get so invested in their life, and then it seems like we leave off and we're following the next person in that family. And people have criticized it and said it feels more like connected short stories as opposed to a novel, because you just don't explore enough of one person's story. And I thought that where some people thought that was a weakness, I felt like that was a strength, because I think the author gives us so much. There is so much reach, so much depth, maybe not depth but breadth to the story. We're talking about immigration to different countries. We're talking about the life of the immigrant and the life that the immigrant's child has. We're also talking about, we're making a comparison between the life that a person would have in the United States versus the life that they may have inhabited if they had remained in their home country. We get to see slavery, the vestiges of slavery, how it impacts the children of the slave as well as the children of the slave owner. And someone may be feeling ashamed of their past because they are linked to someone who owned slaves, and trying to make amends for that if they can, how they acknowledge that in their lives and their minds. So love this book and highly recommend it if you haven't already checked out this book. Caribbean is coming up in June. Read Caribbean. It's always a good time for that. Pumpkin, come back. Okay. So that was the first book. The other book was Here Comes the Sun by Nicole Dennis Benn. And I thought that this was a really interesting look at life in Jamaica as experienced through people who are not just living the life of someone who's impoverished, but also seeing what the other people, what the other side experiences. So we have a woman at the center of this book, and she's of course of African descent. She is poor. She and her mother and her sister live in a slum. They live in very unstable housing. They live in what we call shanties, ghettos. They're squatters essentially. So they're living in a place where things are not great, but they have dreams, they have hopes. And so this young woman, her younger sister is in high school, and the plan is for the family to work to make sure that she gets a good education so that she can become the thing that rescues them. So when she gets educated enough, she will be wealthy enough to rescue them from poverty. And so what does this sister, what does she do to make money? She works in a hotel, and so she is one of the people who is responsible for making sure that the ideal of Jamaica, the beaches, the resort lifestyle is experienced by people who have, the people who are wealthy, the foreigners, the people who have access. So she's making sure that they have an experience that is very unlike her own as a Jamaican native. Her mother also works at the craft market, and so she's one of the people who is selling, trying to get tourists to purchase souvenirs at usually very inflated prices. So both of these women are working in the tourist industry in some way, trying to sell a dream of what Jamaica is, but not living that dream themselves, even though they are Jamaicans. This book also explores homosexuality, what the experience of the person who is gay is like, the choices that they make, how they hide themselves, how difficult it is to be free. So the author herself identifies as a gay woman, and this book is just so powerful in a lot of ways. The book also explores colorism in Jamaica and the different opportunities and access that people who have light skin have as opposed to people who have dark complexion. And it's not something that I may have understood completely myself when I was growing up, because as someone who is fairly light skinned, I was one of the people who probably had the access and didn't realize the discrimination that other people were feeling. So in this book, she talks about the tendency for some of these people to bleach their skin, and what they go through in order to try to go through that process, what that is like, and also the threat, not just the physical threat to them, but also how it affects their self-esteem. This book is deep, it's really profound, and I highly recommend it as well. So if you're new to my channel, welcome, thank you for being here. And you know, if you want to read the books for the Run Right Reads Book Club, I highly recommend these two books as a way to explore Jamaica, whether in the past or in the present. And I'd love to chat with you in the comments if you've read them before and just want to talk to me about them here, or if you'd like to join our Zoom chat as we read books in the future. Go ahead, check me out. I'll link in the description box down below the books that we're going to be reading in the upcoming months, and invite you to join me. So for now, thank you so much for watching this video. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more. Let's chat in the comments, and until next time, with a jaw full of cheese. Until next time, bye. You gonna wave to them? Yeah, wave. Oh, mommy loves you. Mommy loves the pumpkin. Ah.